but there's this opportunity over here in autonomous vehicles that you might find interesting. And this is a totally new space. So what happened was I took advantage of a research opportunity to get to the program and be in the place I wanted to be. It also came with this offer of the joint PhD program, which I felt positioned me really well for life after undergrad or after my PhD. And so to kind of give some action steps, one, I applied to the program I wanted to be in. I applied again, like, you know what, I'm just gonna try again and see what happens. And come to find out, at the time when I applied in 2012, the EPP program, Engineering and Public Policy program, did not admit people from undergrad. They wanted you to have some work experience before you came to do a PhD. So I just wasn't an ideal candidate, not because I had done anything wrong, but simply because that program was really tailored towards people who have a master's degree already, people who have worked and have some experience that they're coming into the program with. It has since changed, but I was quite literally a better fit a couple of years later when I applied again. So that happened. Also, I took advantage of the research opportunity in front of me. Now I feel like I have, even though I've made a pivot and had to like kind of reskill myself, it has been to my benefit in the work that I do. And I think it gives me a good future as far as career stability, because I don't think autonomous vehicle research is going to go anywhere for the length of my research career. And then, applying again, and I only got into CMU this time, but I'm where I want to be. So that's a snapshot of my experience, but happy to talk more about it as we keep talking.
Thanks, Alante. I'm just trying to figure out the tech, but I'm sure that at some point before the end of this session, it will be figured out. But thanks for the introduction, and I really love how you kind of shared your journey, because it wasn't a very linear path, right? You got into a program, and I think sometimes we forget that even getting accepted is not always what we kind of put it out to be. So a rejection could be a blessing in disguise in some instances. We just don't know. So I'm just going to take it over to Afua for her to share her story. Afua, are you in here? I think we lost you for a bit.
Did you? Because I'm here.
Okay, fantastic.
Okay. Thank you very much, Miriam, for this opportunity to be able to share our story. I mean, it's a good thing, specifically if you're coming from you've had to spend most of your life in West Africa, and you've actually tried to fight between all odds to actually get to where you are, irrespective of where you come from. So I think that it's very good to highlight it, because I think that I've had contact with 2 or 3 people that think that, I just gave up on that because I couldn't get through and there's nothing I could do. So let me just channel it. So these stories help to tell people that you're not a failure. Just one opportunity or one fail doesn't make you a failure. It's just probably if you're Christian or you believe in God, it's actually channeling your path for you, like Alante said. So we hold on to that faith. So I think that I had my undergraduate in University of Ghana, Legon. I didn't graduate with the first class, I should say that. So I graduated with a second class lower degree, upper, I mean, and this was someone with a medical, probably an educational degree that had a lot of lows my first and second year because I had a medical condition, but picked up on the third and fourth year. And that's evident in my transcript. You couldn't take that away. And obviously there was nothing I could do about it. So, but I knew where I wanted to get to. I knew that I wanted to be, I wanted to do my master's right after school and obviously proceed to do a PhD. I didn't have quite a straight path. I had to channel and pull out a lot of resources, I mean, to get to where I am. And I think somewhere in my fourth year, just before my fourth year, I got engaged in a lot because I knew my academic experiences or wasn't really that strong to actually merit me a master's after school. So I had to strategically put points in. And I always say that those were those times where I was trying to be very intentional because of where I wanted to get to the end goal. And so I mean, I was part of a lot of, I mean, anytime I see a conference around, I join in those kind of conversations just to give me a wide range of where things are going and where I can channel my probably my personal state or my motivation from. So I got into a project that was meant for a guy who actually, I think that it was between 5 students, and obviously they all denied the project because it was more of like chemistry based, and I did materials engineering. So a lot of them actually had that passion in physics and mathematics more than their chemistry. And I had a combination of both. So I took the project and I had the opportunity in my fourth year to do an internship, a fully funded internship in Aston University in the UK. And I think that point was the breaking point. I knew I was here, and I knew I had to do everything by all means to get that position, because where I was coming from was not a privileged path at all. So I remember days and nights I spent in the lab. And coming from, I mean, Ghana, where we really didn't have a lot of facilities in terms of lab equipment, and coming to see being put in a lab, I mean, place to actually man certain equipment was quite challenging. And I remember a lot of microaggressives saying that this equipment is not going to come into your wherever you're coming from, so there's no need for me to teach you. I mean, calling out all those microaggression comments in my journey, I think didn't put me down, because I still knew, I still kept the focus. And I'm a first generation PhD holder in my family. Nobody really sees it. Most of them are really just, you go to senior high school, what's all this? Why do you want all this? I mean, I knew the forces behind me were quite strong, pulling me back, that just settle for what you have and be comfortable where you are. But I knew where I wanted to get to. So, I mean, learning all those equipment, making an impression. I mean, I mean, you might call it, probably it's not too much to make an impression, but I knew that would give me an advantage and a leeway over a lot.
That's why I just want to jump in there, and I really love the resilience, right? Because it's like, I wanted this, I'm gonna get it. I don't care the background, whether I didn't finish with the first class, that's your business, right? Yeah. I know what I want, and I'm gonna work hard to get it. And I think that's one thing that I want to, for all of us to take home, because I was reading or listening actually to this book called The Obstacle is the Way. It's by James Clear, the same person who wrote Atomic Habits. And he says, nobody was born with a steel backbone. You have to forge it. And it is forged through rejection. Before I share my story, I just want to ask both of you to do like a quick game, to mention the things you've been rejected for. So we're going to go round because we want to normalize it, right? So in the comments, I want you to be proud of your rejections, because guess what? It means you tried. It means you tried. And we're here to tell you the value of resilience and the value of trying again, right? So Afua, why don't I start with you, right? One thing or opportunity you've been rejected from.
It's quite a lot. I was rejected to Cambridge.
Okay, Cambridge, all right. Yeah. I was rejected from Harvard, okay. Alante.
I shared Michigan, but I was also rejected from University of Maryland.
Mm-hmm. There we go. I was rejected from UBC, okay, for my PhD. Any other rejections? I can see some in the comments. 5 rejections. It's all right. It's all right.
Yeah, I think I had more than 5. Probably like 30, I think.
Wow. And
fellowships, mostly rejections at this point. Mm-hmm.
That's it. That's the truth. Even conferences, rejections, right? And you think I thought this I wrote a very good abstract. No, right? So Afua, she says she's had over 30 rejections, and she's here doing a PhD, right? Alante as well, and me. And look at the comments, 5 rejections in total. We brush it off our shoulder, rejected from Oxford MSc, okay? 7 rejections, fellowship journals, grad school. It means you are trying, right? So don't give up. Now, I want to ask this question, and maybe I'll start with Afua, because I feel like there were still some gems that you wanted to drop, but I felt like I wanted to get the audience engaged to know that, we're here now, we're talking about the things that we've done, but we've cried at different points in time. We've written letters asking for funding from people who slammed the door in front of our faces, right? It's happened to us. So, So Afua, just to why do you think these rejections happen? You know, what are the causes? What are the factors that we can say, you know, make rejection happen?
I think basically now academia is moving from more of the courses you want to do to impact. I think in the broader aspect, I always tell people that think about the impact of your work. What is the broad aspect of your work, irrespective of the courses you want to, you want to align yourself to. So I think that when that comes into play, then they start looking out for things like your professional experience in relation to that particular course that you want to be selected for. Then in the broad aspect, a leadership experience should also count. And I got into a conversation with someone thinking broadly that a leadership experience should not be something as huge as what probably we are thinking of. You can even market a cupboard boy to have a leadership role. If you actually play the role of a cupboard boy, you can actually say I arrange the books in terms of gender, alphabetically, to be able to allow people to be able to sort things out. I arranged them in terms of people who came late. That way, they also missed their deadline for their submission. And that is just a simple cupboard boy, and how a personal brand to that has been able to project his image for a leadership role. So with that, I think as much as possible as well, a volunteering experience really counts, a non-profit one, because we try to say that it's not really worth the pay, but we want to know that probably you can go beyond the pay to actually go for what you want and giving your maximum effort or your maximum input. So and always a non-profit, experience also helps to buttress those points. And I think that's on a bigger picture. I'm an engineer. I do nanospace engineering strictly on the lab base, but the impact of my work in the broader aspects is providing clean water for West Africa, and that is looking at a material that is readily available, which is called a photocatalytic material. I don't want to go into the science of it,
Yeah,
but there's,
please don't.
yeah, there's a whole science to it. But to fund this, that's not the impact. The impact is the broad aspect. It is
Yeah,
helping solve 5 million people below
amazing.
the ages of this, that, who are getting clean water, and that's the impact. So beyond everything you do, the impact is what counts. And I think people don't get that clear picture. They're still going round and round about the courses they want to apply for and stuff like
Mhm.
that.
Yeah, yeah, and you know, it's what you've said is really key. Because I'm trying to give the audience an opportunity for them to reflect on their application, right? So a lot of times we're writing and saying, I want to study this course because it's the next step in my career, or it's this. But what is the impact that you studying this course is going to have? Because look at it, it's a pool, it's a competitive pool, and if they're going to select you over other people, they need to know, especially if you're applying for scholarships, that your return on investment is likely to be higher than everybody else. It's like when you're applying to this scholarship, see yourself as a startup. Okay, see yourself as a startup. Your pitch deck is your scholarship documents, right? And you're competing against other startups for this startup grants, and it's like, okay, you just say, well, actually just joining this incubator is going to be amazing for our startup, and it's going to be wonderful, and I really just love what you do at this incubator. Great. But somebody else comes and says, look, if I get into this incubator, I am confident, that I will be able to contribute to solving the problem of this for X number of people. I'm confident I will do this, to show really the impact that your work will have. That's an amazing point. Alante, do you want to add some other things that, maybe people could have done differently, or just more broadly, reasons for rejection?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think Afua made a great point about the articulation and marketing. And I'm like sitting here writing notes myself, like, see yourself as a startup. I like that.
Yeah.
But something else that I think of is also, I just kind of shared it, but like sometimes it really is timing. It really can be timing of the school, and also thinking about being very strategic about where you're applying. Like one thing that I think sometimes anyone can do when they're applying is they find one professor who has the skills they want at that school, and you're like locked in, like I want to work with this person, and that's it. And what can happen is maybe that person ran out of money, maybe they don't have any funding that particular year, or they're about to retire, like I just shared with the person I was thinking to work with, and you end up kind of pigeonholing yourself where if that person doesn't say yes to you, you are without any options. And so when you are looking at schools, look at places where you can do your work at least with multiple people in the department, or potentially, okay, if it doesn't work in engineering and public policy, there's some similar work that I can transfer to over in civil, and I can still be successful and finish my program. And so it's a strategic thing that while you're looking at schools, having that thought, but then it's going to reflect in your personal statement or in your essays when you say, I really want to solve this problem. This is the area I want to work on. And now they'll send it to everyone who has that kind of area of expertise. And you can then open your options at that school, because you're not just hoping that one person will accept you. Maybe somebody else can, because again, you've picked a place, you've picked a area of research or expertise that is a strong point for that school or for that department or for that college of engineering, et cetera. So it's strategic, but something you would want to think about when you were looking at the schools. Like, is the school really well known for this, or is it top ranked? Those two things are not the same.
Yes.
School don't matter if they're not an expert in the area that you want to be working in.
Look, there's so many gems that are being dropped in this session. And I think a lot of people, and I was a victim of this, because when I used to look at schools, I would only think, if I wanted to go study in the UK, I would say, what are the best schools in the UK? And then apply to those programs. But that may not actually be the best school for your research. Especially if you're doing a research-based program, the top-ranked schools in a particular country may not be the best schools for your research. And you might have, for example, if you're doing anything if you're interested in shipping or maritime law, yeah, going to Harvard is great. But if you go to Tulane Law School, there's a port next door. They know about shipping. Or if you go to Dalhousie, and you're talking about like the environment and, like water, you're literally living beside the ocean. Like, everything is happening right there and then. So being very strategic about your choice of schools is crucial to avoid rejection. And so I just want to list out a few other points, or emphasize actually some points. And, one of those is that sometimes rejection is not your fault. And that's what Alante was trying to explain. It's not your fault. It's either because, the professor is actually not available, right? Or there's no money for that project, or your research proposal is great, but they just can't see anyone that you can work with. And that's why it's important for you to don't be, as Alante said, don't be too stiff, don't be too pigeonholed. Try to make your research a bit flexible. Another point is that a lot of times we're in our head with our research. Let's go back to the startup analogy, right? If I want to give my money to someone, I need to see the benefit they're also going to provide for me. A lot of times when we're writing to supervisors, you say, oh, I want to study education to see how, West African schools can do this. Now, let's assume this professor has never done any research in West Africa, which is possible, right? Why should they supervise you? But if you take your research and abstract it to a higher level and say, I'm trying to conduct research into how, I don't know anything about this, by the way, I'm just pulling this out of my ear. So if it's wrong, it is, I'm trying to, find out how, low income communities, whatever with education, using West African, this particular country as a case study, they can see how your research is actually going to even feed into theirs, right? It can provide more knowledge for them. It would expose them. Your supervisors want to learn from you. So what are you bringing to the table when you're submitting that proposal? Again, we're going back to the impact question. So somebody is asking, how can I try to show impact? It is by doing this. How is it that you're making an impact to the research field, or you're making an impact in terms of how your work is going to be used practically, or new information that you're bringing out, or something like that. So I want us to, we have some applications that we need to look through, and I want us to be able to do that. But I realized that I actually didn't tell my story before I started. So do I have the permission to do that? Okay, awesome. So as I said, my name is Miriam Ahmed. I was so excited to just get into our guest. And I studied law from the University of Ibadan in Nigeria. And I finished with the first class. And I think I had a bit of an entitlement mentality as to the fact that, oh, you know, now that I've done everything I could do in school, I have a first, I've done this, I've done that. When it's time for my master's, walk in the park. I'm just going to get so many multiple offers and so many scholarship opportunities because I had put in the work. And that the reason why I'm saying so is, I'm giving this background is, sometimes even the best candidates will get rejected if they don't do certain things right. So I applied to Harvard. I thought I was Harvard material. I've still gone to other conferences organized by Harvard, fully funded, by the way. And that's another point that we can make. Because you're not going into a school now, doesn't mean you still cannot be affiliated with them later on. Now, I got rejected from Harvard, but thankfully I got into Cambridge, I got into Oxford. I got rejected for a scholarship from Oxford, but I finally got everything I wanted from Cambridge, and I went there. But I look back at my Harvard application, and one of the things that I know that I did wrong was that I wasn't ambitious enough in my application documents. I didn't show them that I would be a worthy investment. So I had ticked all the boxes quite all right, but I didn't show them that I was going to be the next Barack Obama. I was going to make I was going to make an impact. And that's what those kinds of schools want. So when you're applying to highly ranked schools, have it in mind that you cannot be modest. You cannot be humble. You cannot do a humble brag. You need to brag. You need to show them, you need to be bold about what it is that you think you can do. I mean, nobody says you're going to do it, but at least you need to show that you believe that you can actually do it. So I don't know whether, we want to just say a few additional points, and then we can go into the essays. Afua.
Yeah, I wanted to add to the question the person asked that it's an advertised PhD position. Obviously, they've been able to state the objectives of the PhD positions that they are doing. But the thing is that it's always like with my position, it was advertised as well. What they were doing was specifically photocatalytic materials for water treatment. Now, I had to find the gap in how that could impact mainly the UK community, which is an international global community. Now, what is their problem is they have a lot of hard water systems. So that means that if the material is able to focus on the production of soft water systems, then if that same material could do something in Ghana, like in West Africa, that is also on a very, on a local level. So you need to be able to find what is the international level of that project that has been advertised, what is the global level of that, how does it cut across all of that, including a local level. If you're able to find a measure between the two, the thing is like, it's sort of like partnership in giving research grants is the goal. That is why SDG, the final one, is partnership for goals. So if they're able to find the link between what you're actually obtaining across board, there could be that partnership between all these countries, and that is what promotes research as much as possible. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Amazing insights. Alanta, do you have any points before we go into the academic side of things?
Only thing I was thinking of, what do you do kind of in that meantime, right? So if you just finished this cycle and you had rejections, what can you be doing between now and the next application cycle to really position yourself? If you have access to any type of, like, if you have time, like if you have time and access to any type of related research that you even if you're volunteering, go do it.
Yeah.
Go do it. If there's a way for you to take like a course that's maybe at a school, like for example, I know Carnegie Mellon has a Rwanda campus. So if you're in Rwanda, you can get connected to that campus and you want to go to Carnegie Mellon, that is a way. Like we actually have a PhD student here who did her master's in Rwanda and now is a PhD student here at the Pittsburgh campus. And so think strategically again, like how can I get connected? What opportunities are in front of me? And I really don't think there's anything wrong with volunteering your time. That shows you are committed in a way that most people aren't. A lot of people who apply and don't do research for free. You know, like quite frankly, like I'm so committed to this, I'll do it for free. That's how much I love it. That's something that I did that I feel like helped differentiate me. Let me tell you, I don't have a strong GPA. My GRE scores are super old. It was the last year before they expired when I applied, you know, but I have what I do know is I'm a good researcher. And I like it so much. I did it for free for like maybe 6 months, 3 months over the summer at the University of Michigan. Still didn't get in the University of Michigan, by the way. However, you know, I just want to say that there are some things you could be doing in the meantime. Like if there's like a course, if you think it's your grades, coursework. If you think it's experience, get some more experience. And if you feel comfortable, especially for schools that have graduate coordinators, send them a message and ask them what you can do to strengthen your application.
Absolutely.
I wanted to ask, I was like, the more the conversation goes, but you can still be projected to the screen. Probably it will cut my conversation. Yeah, I get a lot of people say, I don't have that time to actually volunteer because there's no money involved. And I mean, I don't get that zeal and all of that. I cannot be taking money and going about and not having that. But my question is that whilst you're still sitting back home and trying to apply for a job you're not getting, and you're actually whiling away all that time between that time to your rejection, doesn't it rather make it profitable, worthwhile, actually going and coming from somewhere you actually think you're not going to get experience, or you're going to get that experience, but it's not worth the money you're actually spending to actually to target that to your application. Like sometimes I just think about people actually have that box. I mean, they've put themselves in that box and what they are hoping set to do. And so they are not ready to move outside the box. Actually, I mean, be flexible on that. You know, you actually want to apply for that particular position. So if you're going to spend all the time, but probably moving into that, you're going to miss a connection that is actually has that direct connection. You're going to keep trying for 3 years, and that particular connection where you actually went to, I mean, by sharing with them your story, I've been applying. Oh, I know somebody there. I could actually just send a letter to Miriam, who actually knows somebody. So instead of like just sitting down, whiling away your time, 3 months trying to do that, like start to gain other skills that will help in channeling your application most. It's key. It's very important, irrespective of whether there is money attached, there is no money attached. These are all the things that have helped to, aggressively put us on the map. And I think that even if you volunteer with Destiny, you create an impression on Miriam. And instead of having the opportunity probably by just an email to reach her, you actually get a personal connection with her. And if it means she reading your research proposal or whatever, personal statement, to actually put you on the top, she'll actually take time for you because you're volunteering wholeheartedly into pushing her dream and her passion. Yeah.
And I my heart is really so full just by having this session, because I think that in between phase is really hard. So also allow yourself to feel disappointed, right? I think it's okay. It's okay. You can mope around for a week, eat ice cream and fries and waffles and pancakes and all the carbohydrates that you need. Eat it. But what is not okay is you giving up on that dream if you know this is really what you want to do, because it's only those who persist that the doors will open for. So we've got a few suggestions. We have the suggestion for you to volunteer. We've had the suggestion for you to do more coursework. The third suggestion is for you to read more. And when you're reading, you're not just reading, and I think a lot of people don't know this until they kind of get into academia. You're not reading papers, you're reading people. When you're reading, don't just read the paper. You need to figure out who has written this paper. Where are they teaching? If this paper connects with your work, that's a potential supervisor. You might be looking at a particular school, right? But there's another researcher in a school you've never heard of who is doing the exact work or something close to what will help you. So please, can we try not to write on the beautiful white screen? Thank you. I know it's really tempting, like even I want to, but let's just try so that we can read the essays. So when you're reading your papers, don't just read the papers, read the people. Where are they teaching? Where have they taught? Where have they done research? Another thing you can look out for are institutes and organizations that are in your field. They're always looking for volunteers, even if you're writing blog posts, right? If you put that on your resume, so let's say you're a marine biologist and you are a student member or a graduate member of the marine biologist, whatever association, it is very possible that the person you are even trying to supervise you is a member of that same association and would feel some type of connection with you. So these are tips and tricks that people don't say out there, but it's also a game of psychology. You look at someone on paper and say, do I want to meet this person? Do I want to spend the next 4 years coaching and mentoring this person? It's as simple as knowing, doing some in-depth research into the kinds of people that your potential supervisors interact with online and quoting those people in your, for example, your research proposal, or putting them as your some of your references, because your potential supervisor is seeing things that they're familiar with, things that they are comfortable with. At the end of the day, trying to get a supervisor, it's like you're dating, as Alante said. You're just trying to woo someone to choose me, pick me. That's exactly what it is. So these are a few things that, I don't know whether it's a Nigerian sense, but they're just some little tips, tricks, and things that I've been teaching people over the years that just changes the game when they're trying to get someone to pick them. So now we have some applications. We asked you to send in your applications that had been rejected because we feel like, yes, we can talk and give you the motivation, but we want you to leave with actual skills, actual examples that can show you how to do things better. Again, it's not every time rejection is your fault, but let's be real, sometimes it is. All right. Sometimes it is. So the way this is going to work is, I know that you wouldn't have the time to read these entire essays, and I really want to thank everyone who submitted an application. We could only pick 6, but I hope that you can learn from these. So I'm going to do the first one. And the way it's going to work is I'm going to just kind of ask, one of our speakers or me to review the application first, and then the speakers can chime in. In addition, I'm looking for you in the comments to say 1 or 2 things that you see that can be fixed. This is a collective exercise. So I want you to be engaged, right? I want you to be engaged in, kind of also really critically thinking about what can be changed. So now let's go straight in. So this is a person who is, let me just give you a brief profile. This person is a lawyer, applied to the University of Oxford. So this is a very, very competitive school for an MSc in law and finance. This person got a second-class honors upper division. That's a good grade. I know people who have gotten into the MLF, who've gotten into Harvard with a second-class upper division. So obviously the grades are not a problem. But I noticed a few things, and I'm going to run through this very quickly. Now, and I'm going to point out some of the good and some of the not so great, right? So it could also be that some of these reasons, we're not the admissions committee, we're just giving you our opinions, right? So please take it with a grain of salt, ditch whatever you think is wrong, and take on board whatever you think is right for you. Now, the first thing I noticed when I read this application was the person said, I graduated in the top percentile of the class. Now, when you use percentile, there must be a number before the percentile. So did you graduate in the 99th percentile of the class, which means you were literally in the top of the class? Now, I know as a Nigerian, we actually don't use percentile to explain our grades. And I know it's a bit confusing sometimes to know how to use it. So you don't have to use percentile if you're not very familiar with how it works. You can just say, I finished in, or you can just use percent instead. I finished in the top 1%, because percentile means the opposite. So you finished in the top 99 percentile, but you finished in the top 1% of your class. Now we have 4,000 students. I think this is amazing because it's good to show, how well you ranked against other people, right? So if you say I finished in the top 1% of 4,000 students, it means you were one of the top 40, and that's a big deal. But with this information, I actually cannot rate these students because I don't know her percentile. and I don't really, I know something is kind of coming through, but I don't really know what it is, right? So that's just a little thing and that's the first thing on your resume. That could have been the little thing that just, switched the committee from reading further, right? And let's be quite honest, I know recruiters talk about the fact that you have just like 6 seconds to impress the admissions committee, a recruiter, and it's almost similar, because I've reviewed some scholarship applications, and honestly, you can tell within the first few seconds who is going to the next stage or not. So this is solid application in terms of, the person has good grades. I noticed that the person recorded distinctions in company law, banking, negotiable instruments, labor law, trade, IP, and tax. And that's solid because you are showing that you have that commercial law, finance, money understanding, which fits very well with the program that they're trying to apply for. So good job. The other thing I'm going to highlight here is that, and I'm not going to highlight everything that I'm seeing because of time, but this person, please, I have 5 minutes. In 3 minutes, tell me to stop, please. I need a comment because I love to do this. I can do this for days. So this person has mentioned Aluko Anoyebode. Now, I know this firm, right? Because I'm Nigerian, but Alante, does Aluko Anoyebode mean anything to you? No. If you hear a firm like, I'm looking at a firm but you do know some law firms in the US, right? Can you mention one? Do you know any law firms in the US? No? Okay, I'm putting you on the spot.
I was like, I am not the right person for this. It was on the commercials, That's about
Maybe,
it.
but yeah, and you're even in the US, right? And my point is, you can't expect that the admissions committee knows your life. You have to tell them your story in a way that they have no questions left. There's no doubt, there's no question. So when you say Alukaneyebode, you need to describe this organization and say, this is actually one of the best law firms in Nigeria, Alante, like literally even in Africa. But nobody knows that, right? So, well, maybe they do, but you have to assume that they don't, except you're working with like a KPMG, which everybody knows is KPMG. If you're working with any organization that is not a huge multinational, that is a name brand, you must describe the organization. So Alukaneyebode, you would say that it's here one law firm in Africa, ranked by Chambers and Partners. Don't just say it's a tier 1 law firm. Who said so? Ranked by the Times of New York, right? Ranked by this, ranked by that, so that we can tell that you're working in a really solid place. So those are just some of the few things I wanted to say. Now, in this resume as well, there was lots of information, but not enough impact. So liaise with committee and subcommittee members, speakers, sponsors, event planners, vendors, all admin components of the conference in a project management capacity to achieve what? To organize the biggest so conference of 20,000 lawyers. Boom. I can get what you're saying. So I'm not going to go too much, but those are just some of the things that popped out. So member planning committee of the Young Lawyers Mentorship Program. How many lawyers ended up being mentored, right? What was the impact of this? So we have a deal sheet, but don't let me do too much. Now for this essay, again, this good candidate. It's not a bad candidate, but you're applying for a competitive program. So you have to bring out all your guns. My decision to apply for an MLF, it's all right. And we end up talking about Nigeria's foremost commercial law firm right here. But you don't tell us who is giving us that ranking. It can be, did you pull it, did you just assume that it is? Are you just hyping up your workplace? But when you say by The Economist, we know that it's a real thing. So the only challenge I had, 2 things I had with this essay. It didn't sell your expertise as well. It was just like, I'm good, take me. But Oxford needs more than that. And the question I asked was, what value are you even bringing to the program? So you can say that you've done finance, law and finance transactions in an emerging market with regulatory, really changing or frequently changing regulatory background, or you've had, something that shows that you bring something different to the table that every other candidate will not have. So it's a great application, but this is how you can take it to the next level. So the second person is medical radiology. Afua, Alante, do you want to add something?
I just want to add one thing to the CV.
Mhm.
I just want to remind bullets don't have to be sentences. They really shouldn't be sentences.
Yeah.
So there were a
True.
lot of like bulleted sentences, which like isn't typically needed. So if you can also more succinctly say what you did, will also help with readability when people are looking at your CV. They're not planning to actually read it in depth. They want to just see boom, 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 boom. So I just want to add that.
Yeah.
Fantastic. So I don't know if Alante or Lois wants to take the lead on this second candidate, who is, let me just give an introduction. Medical radiology, rejected twice from Utrecht University, Netherlands, and Maastricht. Applied for biomedical engineering or medical imaging.
Yeah.
Good to
Alante,
good to
if you
you.
can do it, I'll carry it after.
Okay, sure. So
Good to
I looked
you
at,
can have
I
you
definitely
pin
took
your
the
current
time to
address
look
and
at
send
the
it to me.
essay.
Can we mute? Sorry, I think we're having some feedback. Can we please mute
I
ourselves?
just tell
And
him now, don't give him the address of this place. Google Map will bring him straight here.
please, can you, admin, can you help us please with muting? Thank you so much. Okay, Alante, please carry on.
Sure. So I looked a lot at the CV, but we can take a peek at their profile. Well, I mean, Miriam, you have these things highlighted. Did you want to cover this part, and then I can maybe jump in the CV?
Okay. I think
Okay,
I mean, the essay. I'm sorry, the essay.
yeah. I think that with the profile, which is obviously like I looked at the CV, great outline of what the CV title should be. But just like you said, there are a lot of information. Even at the profile section, I can whatever she's written, I can channel it into like 3 lines.
yes.
Obviously, target less than if you can do it even 2 lines, that's perfect because it's like you're saying just what is on the CV at the profile side, everything down there, and so it's not worth having it. I mean, so full and so packed. I think that it just confuses whoever takes your CV. The skills I always say insert quantifiable achievements of skills. I have had to use if you say PACS and IT skills. IT skills, like a lot of things you can do with IT. So what can you do? What can you do when it comes to that? I mean, specifically Adobe Photoshop. Can you I mean, and usually I like to arrange my skills in technical skills. That is with reference to the job I am applying for and technological skills. So my technological skills has got probably the Microsoft Offices and the Adobe Photoshop, the Corel Draw. That gives me an impact of how I'm able to even do designs or something like that. And I think that, yeah, with the education as well, 2019, duh, like when I just saw 2019, like from what year to what year? Specifically, don't take it as this is your marketing point. I should be able to tell the story of this person by taking the person's CV, trace their channel of life. I can see that, oh, you missed out on a 1 year gap. What were you doing there? I should be able to find that in probably a volunteering work or there's a gap here. Like I should be able to trace everything without any form of gaps when it comes to the years as well. And with the professional experience, I think it's mostly quantifiable instead. Like I could say, I led a team of 8 to be able to set up 15 STEM clubs in a remote area like in Ghana, one of the smallest remote areas in Ghana. I mean, trained 50 young girls. I mean, quantifiable data. Think deeply. If you're doing something with lab work as well, you can quantify, but saying you were able to sample, do a 10 PCR test in 15 minutes, okay, and this was the results you got after in one line, in one sentence. Channel all that. I mean, that thinking. Don't just put things. It feels more like you copied, more than like just copy and paste from what's on the internet and just putting it on there. It doesn't really carry forward. Yeah, well, yeah.
I think you raised very great points, and particularly with and I think if you don't spend time on the rest of your documents, the introduction of your resume and your essay, whenever I edit essays, I agonize over the introductions. I spend days because it's that's actually what gets them in, and we're going to talk about that going on, and same for the resume. So thanks for that point. I also wanted to add that your education is not just a list. yes, you've gone to all these places, and then what? Like, I don't know what you did there. You know, can you put some impact? You also don't need to put your high school, because, you know, it doesn't really help, and it's taking up some space, you know. So please put your impact. You know, what did you do? What courses did you take that can help with what you're doing, you know, you're trying to do currently? And then the research experience, I highlighted it because I wasn't sure what kind of research this was. If you're applying for an academic position, I want to know what it is. Is it what was it exactly? What was the impact? Who funded it? What was that about? So you could have expanded a bit more on that. You know, the Radiography Students Association, how many people were in that association? You know, giving some numbers will let us know what it meant for you to be a Secretary General of that organization. So the essay, Alante.
Absolutely. And also there was a question in the chat just like about my point about the bullets. Again, bullets are not sentences. That's what I want to say. Like, they should be succinct, almost not a sentence, like action statements. Like I'm looking at my CV as well, just like oh shoot, okay, where is it? Like you know, investigated Y, you know, fabricated Z, like action words, what you did. So I just want to like emphasize that when you're putting your impact onto in your CV. So my bullets are like really not like super quick. I mean, they are quick actually with each essay. So the first thing, like personally, I have an interesting relationship with like starting essays with quotes. I'm not, I just feel like it's hard to really hit them with something that's really going to make an impact. And that first sentence is so important. And so what I find is like something that's some sort of transformation from your own personal story as your anchoring sentence and your starting sentence is going to make more of an impact and create more intrigue than maybe a quote from like somebody else. So that was my first thing. Some people have different opinions about that, but that's just something I think about. And I don't think quotes can have as much impact as I started in agricultural engineering and made a full pivot to transportation, and I can't imagine anything else. You know what I mean? Something that's like, what? Ag, how do you get there? You know? So that was the first point. And it, honestly, the chunk of your experience and what you've done, I didn't really have a lot of issues with. I think it was good. Do I think you can maybe make it more succinct? Absolutely. And like, always telling like the skills you pulled from each experience, right? And I learned how to do this, and this is where I grew my expertise in this area. And then at the end, it's almost like now I have all these skills and I'm ready to apply them to this new experience. The last thing, and as you scroll down, Miriam, right at the income part, that for me is something I've never seen, is like writing, like, unfortunately, my income is approximately 1,800 euros per annum, and I can't sufficiently finance my studies. Is it true? And like quite literally saying like, look, I don't have enough money to come to this program. Unless they ask for a dollar amount, I just hadn't seen that before. So I'm not going to say don't do it, but that was new for me. But I do think there are other strong points you can make about the program. And a really great piece of advice I heard over the years just in this space is this is a fellowship application, and it goes for schools too, making the school or the department, making the fellowship the hero of the story. Make them the hero. So it's like, oh, you know, when I become a part of this fellowship, think about the benefits. This is where I think we have to spend a lot of time and think very creatively, because saying it'll help me pay my bills, it'll help everyone pay their bills. Unfortunately, you know what I mean? It's not distinctive. It's not distinctive. And so you want to think about, look at the website. Maybe if you know someone else who's been in the program, or you can go on Twitter. Twitter is a great space to just throw out in the ether, hey, I'm applying to this fellowship. Anybody have any suggestions? Throw your hashtags in there and people will respond. You might be able to talk to somebody and you can say, I want to learn how to do this. I want to be connected to these people and whatever other benefits. So I just feel like you can make a stronger case. While I do think money is enough, but for them, it's not. It might not always be. I'll say that. So saying what you will gain from this program, I think is just super, super key, and making sure that is very strong when you're writing your essays.
And that's, I think that's really spot on. I'm 100% with you on the no quotes introduction. It's a rule at Get In. We do not start any essays with quotes. It's like a taboo. We don't do that. And just to say, in terms of this essay, I understand that it's a scholarship application, so I guess that's why there was some emphasis on the financial ability. But it seems like you went straight into saying, look, y'all, I ain't got no money, so just know that I need this scholarship. But we needed more of, I'm worth you giving me this money. And you should have put your achievements and everything up front, so that when you're asking for the money, it's like, well, damn right, you're gonna get it. Like, we're gonna give it to you. Like, of course, this person has done so much, and it's so unfortunate that they don't have the money, because it's a real thing, right? And I know sometimes this amount might seem ridiculous, but it's so true. When you do like the exchange rate conversion, it actually does end up to a lot of people earning about that in a year. Right. So you might have to decide whether or not you want to put in the numbers. But I think whether you put in the number or not, if you show your value before you ask for the money, and you show your value, what you've done in the past, how you can bring that to them, then you're good to go. So this third one,
I wanted to add to it. Like, I think reading that particular personal statement, I felt like I had read it before. I don't know whether you all got that feeling, because it's like you're trying to be professional, at the same time try to personalize our stories, but not emotionalize the story.
Yes.
I feel like over the years we know we are all poor. Like this, we know, like the thing I understand, we know, like, people are ill in our family. But if I mean, that line has been used over the years, and like, we've tried to move out of emotionalizing your personal statement to practically, professionally speaking why you want to work on that. Probably that way you say that in the course of that, you were able to pretty advise, because I came from a story of blood pressure. Now I can be able to draw graphs when it comes to picking people's blood pressure, to know the highest rate at which and what caused that effect. And that is a personal story to my mom. And I think that it helped me to be able to do something. So the impact comes up, rather than the whole emotion of having to go and this happened and that. And because of that, that led to my guys. I think that part is very important. It pulls emotions, but it doesn't get straight to the point when it comes to your application. So as much as possible, tone down the emotional bit.
And there's a very fine way of doing it. It's like you put just enough, but show that despite the adversity that you faced, you go quickly back into, despite this, here's what I still did. Despite having food, despite having to study under the lantern at night, here's what I did. Here's what I've done with myself. And that way it's a full story. So we're going to speed read the rest of these applications because we have just 20 minutes. So I'm just going to point out, so I'm not going to repeat we're not going to repeat some of the things that we've talked about for previous applications, just new things. So here you can clearly see that 4 students in a class of over 200, very clear, use of numbers, 10 students. I had a problem with saying something was a compulsory departmental event. I think one of the tips I'm going to give you is you don't have to say everything. In Nigeria, we say with all your mouth. You don't have to say everything with all your mouth. You have to decide what to take back and what to give. You did a presentation. That's what it is. You don't have to say it was compulsory because it's like, well, I didn't really want to do it, but I did it, right? So that's the vibe I get from the use of that word compulsory. In fact, all you needed to do was to just add to this line, just add it to your education and take out these other 3 lines. Just say presented to an audience of 100 on this and this and that and that. You didn't need the first 2 and the 4th line, right? This 3rd line alone would have summarized exactly what you did. So we can see some active words, organized, right? We can see here the description that I talked about, right? So this person is actually applying for a PhD in biochemistry. at Stevens Institute of Technology. I also noticed that you don't have a master's, which is not a problem. But I think when you're thinking about a direct PhD, you need to make sure that your profile shows that you can actually undertake extensive research work. And one of the ways of doing that is through publications. Otherwise, you might just decide to do a master's. It's absolutely fine. A lot of times people get into PhDs and realize that it's not even all that it's been hyped up to be. So I always recommend that a master's or a PhD program that has the option of you dropping out, with a master's it's not a bad path at all, right? So we see some of those good things going on there. Now, I think with the essay, does anybody, Alante, do you want to go in?
Yeah, there were some grammatical errors in that. It's interesting because I feel like flow wise, I very much so feel like you have to make it easier for people to read. They have lines, right? Here's my education section. Here's my background section. Here, that part is good. The bullets, the physical bullets, like the little line in a space is not consistent. That detail, you don't want to miss that detail, right? Like if you even like it classified at the very top of the classified and labeled has a no space between the bullet and the word, where in charge does. TV. This is a place where those type of mistakes are not okay, right? Even the Bill and Melinda Gates should be capitalized.
That is true.
Yeah.
Foundation. This shows that you might not pay attention to detail, even though I like the bullets though. The wording, the content is good. And I like the overall flow. I feel like a lot of the ones before were a lot of it was hard to follow because like I need some sort of visual breakup when I'm looking at it. So I want to give you your props, but also like there's still some more detailing and attention to detail that needs to be taken in for this particular
Absolutely. So
Absolutely.
it could be those small things that make a difference between you and another equally qualified candidate. So does anybody want to take a stab at this the essay?
I had two notes.
Okay.
There were some grammatical errors in here as well. And then you have just one professor at the very end of this essay. And that's another pigeonhole like I talked about before, where you're like, I want to work with Professor X. Well, if Professor X doesn't have money, doesn't like your application, you have now Professor Sesha. You've now put yourself in a box where that's the person they're going to send your information to. And there's not as much wiggle room with the other things that might have come with your package. So that was my comment for this particular essay.
And just piggybacking on that, we say, I have gained an appreciation for the work of Professor this. What does that mean? When you say you want to work with a particular professor, you have to, like, I can use this, I have gained an appreciation for fried chicken. It goes right into, what I'm trying to say? Like, sorry, I just like to use dramatic examples, but you cannot say that, by studying the XYZ chromosome. I love doing this science stuff where I just say nonsense. So by studying the XYZ chromosome of the whatever, I have Professor Secha, this, that. I want to work with that person. I can't put in fried chicken in that sentence. In fact, I can't put in any other professor in that sentence. Or you can say this person, then this reason, this person, then that reason, this person, then that reason, right? And they can see that you've actually done your research. The other thing I wanted to highlight about this was that the introduction was almost sounding academic, in that it was like a paper. So we nurture the plant seeds in the tissue culture unit where they undergo culturing and subculturing. There's a place for just summarizing the work you did, but this is really where you tell your story. What does that mean for you? Why was it important for you to do that? What did you achieve with that? Okay. Afua, do you want to add something to this?
Yeah, I think exactly. Like it got technical in the beginning. And I don't know what essay this was. If it's a personal statement, was it a motivation letter? I mean, they sound the same, but there's a way to channel what your past achievement was into the future achievement. And so you would want to less use jargons and technical. I mean, we want to know that you have those technical experiences. Obviously, if you were doing PCR testing and obviously sampling culture units, we know the nitty-gritties about it. Now, what was the outcome of the work? What was the gap? What was the outcome of the work? In 3 sentences, less than 3 sentences, you should be able to capture that. And I think that it went on with a lot of I did this and I learned that. And so,
Again, we have the same thing here. We have the same thing.
yeah, I gained that appreciation from, I mean, it was, it still comes to like the emotion. If it's a motivational letter, you need to know that what is the personal achievement and how does it aim to fulfill that purpose or PhD you're applying for? What is this necessary skill helping to feed into that? If it's a personal statement, obviously you're telling what you are, and the end of it will actually feed into why that particular necessary skill will feed into the link. So I mean, if whatsoever this was, I think I have a lot of brushing up to do depending on what particular essay the person was trying to write and hoping to achieve. Yeah.
Okay. Amazing. And I also wanted to add to that when you're writing, especially for a PhD, you need to sound like more of an authority than somebody who is just like, oh, I want to learn. Yeah, you want to learn, but you are a scholar. You are a researcher. You want to do something. You want to change something. It's not, a PhD is not the place where you actually go to learn. It's a place where you actually go to also teach other people. I mean, you learn, but you're bringing something to the table. So it ends a little bit weak. It says with a PhD, I hope to establish a career in academics by securing a teaching position and constantly update my knowledge in molecular biology through postdoc. So you're just saying, well, when I finish, then I'll keep learning during my postdoc. Like, you haven't given us why. By the time you're done with this PhD, the whole world would know that somebody has studied, molecular biology, right? So we're running almost out of time. So we're going to just jump right in. So Alante, can you take a lead on the fourth one?
I actually I didn't have a lot of comments on the CV. I thought overall the flow was pretty good. Again, bullets are not sentences. I feel like I'm just saying that, like, oh, bullets not sentences, bullets not sentences. Yeah. The GPA, I don't know if I can't remember if this is a PhD program or not.
Masters of Health Administration.
Okay. Yeah, if you're doing a master's, I think your GPA still counts, but after that, nobody cares. And it's a beautiful thing, okay? Nobody, after you get your master's degree, no one's checking for your GPA anymore. You can drop it from your CV or your resume. Overall, yeah, I thought it was pretty good. I like to keep my bullets around 3 for work experience, but just because you want to keep it succinct. And then the essay, actually, Miriam just made the point about making sure that when you're speaking to what you want to contribute to the program, I mean, when you're speaking about the program at the end, like, I want to be in this program because X, Y, Z, talking about how you are going to contribute to the program as well. Your presence in the program makes the program better. Yes. You being a part of a cohort makes the program better. So think also about what you're going to contribute to the space you're coming into. We are junior faculty. Like, when you're your first year, you do not feel like it. But now that I'm a fourth year, I very much so feel like I have something to contribute to the meetings I go to. And that's why I'm being invited to them, because I have expertise. And so even though you aren't there yet, talking about how you're going to do that and what you're going to contribute is going to help make your case stronger, because these are people you're going to work with. This is your first round of your professional network. And so speaking to that, in my opinion, is going to strengthen this essay. That was my main piece, but I see you all have some things highlighted.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. And I thought this is a first class student. So I thought this was a very good, it was neat. And the first thing is, if your resume doesn't look good, people don't want to read it. Let it look good. But I felt like, this application didn't sell the candidates as much as they probably have in them. So for instance, the profile says a diligent pharmacist. Who is a diligent pharmacist? Dynamic thinker and leader. It's generic. Striving for excellence. No, put in your wins. Put in, like the technical stuff that you have that sets you apart immediately. So what I have in my profile is that I'm a lawyer with XYZ years experience, that has advised various companies in emerging markets and doing that. Like, it's like, oh my God, this person has done so much. I want to see more. I want to see what they have, see how they got to this profile, right? So I think you undersold yourself. You have publications. I see no reason why you should have been rejected, honestly. But the essay also starts very academical, in an academic way. And the other thing I picked out was, this paragraph bothered me a lot. It says, while my undergraduate program and hands-on internship experiences exposed me to a wide range of pharmaceutical services, such as the conventional distribution services to I gained limited knowledge. You never say that you don't have enough. I gained limited knowledge on how to best to evaluate and improve these professional services. So I get what you're saying. Like, I want to come to this program so I can learn how to do this thing that I wasn't taught. But why don't you frame it and say, I identified an opportunity for there to be more integrated management, blah, 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 which is why I have decided to come to this program. Same thing, but don't put yourself down ever, you know?
Yeah.
So let's rush into the fourth one. Afua, can you?
I think CV was great, but it always put at the back of your mind, insert quantifiable achievement for whatsoever role you play or you mention. Insert what did you do in that role? What did you do in that application? And you see, for the essay as well, you have good things. You've got publications. You have something. You know, sometimes as well, some of our things are published, okay, probably in a news journal, that particular conference or what you partake, add hyperlinks. It really helps because then I can just click on that hyperlink, move there, and I saw a publication about that. And that sells you out really great. And I realized, the person wrote well. I mean, very trying to be more modest, I think. Take out the modesty because it's between you and the admissions board, so it's not between you and I. Probably you think if you play with me, I'll kill you spiritually or something. So people can't really mention that so much, but think about you as you selling yourself. Hey, I mean, whatever you do, add hyperlinks, add if it's an NGO, add their website as a hyperlink or something, just to highlight that these things are credible and not just based on any form of bragging or something like that.
And I wish this could go on forever. And I don't know if you're interested in another session of this. You know, maybe we will, you know, if you guys in the chats, let us know if you, not even just in the chats, on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram, let us know, because we do a lot of these things from our heart. But we need to be encouraged as well to know that it actually helps. So let us know if you want us to bring, you know, something like this back again. So the fifth and the sixth, we're literally going to go through it in 1 minute each. Do we want to do like a speed, a speed round so we can take some questions? Drop your questions. Okay. So Alante, do you want to take a shot at this one? I think this is an easy one.
Yeah, this one, I mean, the structure was kind of rough for me. It was rough for me, the way that it's organized, even at the top. The first line, you know, fine, it could definitely be improved. I don't know what maybe the header was for this: working knowledge of computer, working knowledge of hazard identification, risk management, but this needs to be, like, I don't, these things aren't, I don't know what you're, even if you're applying for a master's program or a PhD, this isn't helping me determine if you are a good candidate or an ideal candidate. I won't say good, but an ideal candidate. And there's a lot of this. The structure is not strong. And then actually I see this last line actually in a lot of the CVs of like your personal interest. I don't feel like you need it. So, but yeah, this is not, there's a lot of work that can be done here. You can look it up online and like definitely give it a good half a day and strengthen this a lot.
Yeah, I agree. So this is Afua.
Yeah, if the person is here, I just don't want you to take this to heart. It's just constructive criticism, trying to set you on. And so don't take it too much. But the structure of the CV is a no. I wouldn't even give it a 3%. My mom is into typesetting, has a shop, and this is something he would do for somebody who is obviously looking for a job, probably in Ghana. You're competing on an international market for £25,000 with other high candidates from all over the world, probably with very high standards. Some of the things you're writing, I don't see hard work in this CV, obviously. I don't see passion driven in this CV at all. And I think that you will see that from other CVs we have had to review, there's so much work to do on this particular CV. So if you're here, you can probably take a structure of how an academic CV should go for in that particular position and channel it into that. And I think the essay as well, an essay do not have obviously headings and headlines and probably whatnot. And I think that is an off key. Probably in our Nigerian market, in Ghana's market, it will actually sell off. But
there, this CV may not even get traction.
There, it wouldn't at all. Like I wouldn't even give it a 3/10, to be honest. So don't take it as,
but
yeah.
It's to get better, right? To get better. And this person has spent a lot of money submitting this resume to other schools and has gotten rejected by a couple of schools. So this is how not to do your resume. Please, take some time, learn from what has been done and improve this. I'm sure you have it in you. You just need a little bit of guidance, and I hope this has helped you. Now, this last one, I think we can leave the resume, but we should just quickly go into the essay. And it's also a similar question. I haven't seen an essay like this before that says, introduction, who am I? Academic interest and experience. So it's like you've gone into you have the content is actually good, in the sense that I can tell that the person has done a lot of work, but the way it's been presented, you haven't told your story properly. Like you need to tell that story. So why Yale? And you've applied to Yale. This is a school where you go with all your grenades, your guns, everything, an atomic bomb. You go with violence, with your application. But it's come off across as, I'm gonna just do this. I haven't done enough research to know what is expected, and will be an automatic no. So reach out to people. None of us have written our application essays without asking other people to say, oh, what does a PhD application look like? What should I do? How do I do my research proposal? We've asked people around, and Getting has so many free resources, and we also have our boot camp where it's pretty much, the boot camp is, if you don't know, you're gonna know. Like it's so granular. And I think it's one of the things that I'm really, really proud of, because it takes you from not knowing anything about this whole thing to being like a superstar. So I want to check the comments to see if we have questions. We literally have like a few minutes. So people said they're interested. So thank you, Alante and Afua, for doing a good job. We have a few comments here. Team, please take note of the comments. I can't read everything, but do we have questions? Questions in the chat?
I saw a question from S that asks, is it important for you to gain experience before you apply for a master's program? I mean, if you can get research experience, if you're going to a program that is research-based, the strongest way to get in there is to have research experience. Now, if you don't, it does not mean that you cannot. That means the thing is, it's a package, right? Like even with Miriam talking about, we looked at CVs and essays and transcripts and test scores. All of those things happen. So someone like me, I feel like everyone here probably has like amazing GPAs. I saw so many high GPAs. I did not have a high GPA at all. So I knew that I had to show, yes, I might not be like the brightest student, but I'm a great researcher. I have research skills. So I went in and picked my strength of my research abilities. So if you find yourself looking at your whole package and saying, I don't have a piece where I just really shine, pick a piece and do it if you have time. If it's GPA that's over, that means it's time to get some experience. But if you have a super high GPA, that is going to help you if you don't have experience. So it's looking at what your package is, and like if you have things to support to that shine, so at least one or two things that shine. That's kind of the way that I put that.
And we have another question that talks about whether you need to have a research-based master's. I reckon to do a PhD, what helps you determine if you want a research-based program or if you'd rather not? I think it depends on your goals. So most times, if you want to do a PhD at the end of the day, you ought to do a research-based master's. But to be honest, I have a course-based master's and I'm doing a PhD. So it's not the only thing that matters, right? The other thing is you need to figure out what your goals are. Sometimes if your goal is to make sure that you're funded, you need to do a research program. You can't say you don't want to do the research and you want the funding. So I always say follow the money. So if money is taking you to a funded program, please do a research-based, funded program. So I just, okay.
Just to add to that, even if it's a course based, and I'm talking from the UK, you still need to write probably all those kind of essays, which will obviously mean that if I'm impacting you in this all courses can help you to achieve that. So you still need to find what, what if it, because we do a dissertation. And so an idea of what a dissertation could be, even if it's a thesis based master's degree. So that will always channel your mind to actually think in a form of a researcher, even if you're doing a course based master's degree. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Afua. We have one last question and then we'll just wrap it up. If you have more questions, why don't you just tweet at us, right? Tweet at us, tweet at me, tweet at Afua, tweet at Alante, and we'll, I have another session that I have to be at, but once that is done, I will also respond to the tweets. And this last question says, how do you reconcile the fact that your undergrad research is in a slightly different field compared to the master's program you're applying to? Honestly, I don't think it really matters what you do in undergrad. You just need to show why you've made the pivot and show that it makes sense, right? So that's it. Don't worry about that. Don't obsess about it. You gain some skills from that research. You can demonstrate that. So because we are nice people and we will not leave you without anything, so we have Get In. If you don't know about us, you really need to. We are a social enterprise. We help people like you get into graduate school and even expanding to undergrad abroad. We put out a lot of resources to help, and we do also have paid services if you need that. But again, just follow us, right? Whether or not you take the paid courses, it doesn't matter. Just by following us, signing up to our mailing list, you will learn and you will improve if you're ready to do the hard work. Now, we have 2 resources that have been linked in the chat. It's called 5 mistakes to avoid in your grad school application, and another one that says 5 phrases to avoid in your application. So one is a open source, is a free course that talks about 5 critical mistakes you're making in your application. You should watch that. And the second is 5 phrases, just a document for you to download. We're going to send you an email with this, and in the next week or so, we're working on more resources that we're going to send to you to really get you prepared. But if you have been rejected, the point is cry, dust that dirt off your shoulder. Let us look at what can be done differently, take a few tips, and get to work. Those who are going to be congratulated next year are already working. And on that note, I want to thank Alante and Afua for being here. This was so amazing, empowering, and yeah, can we say thank you to Alante and Afua, please? Can we say thank you? Tweet at us is at GettingEdu. Send us a message, send your questions, right? We can be here for 4 hours, to be quite fair. So I'm really grateful. Thank you so much. Thank you everyone for being here. I'm so proud of you for the fact that you're trying to change your story using education. I always say, Loy's story is similar to mine in that education changed my life. It changed my life. It opened the doors to places I never imagined I would go. And it can be the same for you. So don't let this rejection stop you. You've got this, all right? So, we had some problems streaming on Facebook, but we'll try our best to upload this and put this out there so that anybody can watch. Thank you so much, everyone, for coming. Thank you so much, Alante, Afua. I'm gonna be off for like an hour, then I'll come back and just chat with you on Instagram. Thank you so much. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, guys.
Have a good weekend. Thank you.
Yeah,
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Bye.